What's up guys, Higgs here and welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be jumping into some more details that have come out about Ghost of Yotei. You see, Game Informer managed to sit down and interview Nate Fox and Jason Connell, the two co-creative directors, and they released this interview yesterday, and it's got some new details in there, some of the bits we don't know, and they talk a bit about how they actually went over to Japan to get a gist of how things are over there, and they've even walked away with an advisor from the community, which is really cool, just so they could get a sense of how the game should be made, because they are all the way in America, so how would they know how to write a script that entails something in Japan? And they talk about the wolf and a few other things which we're going to go over in the video. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button please, because it helps the video out massively. And if you haven't already and you're into all things Ghost of Yotei, hit the subscribe button as well for more content in the future. So as we can see here, Game Informer starts off with why set the sequel so far after Tsushima. It takes place about 300 years later. Nate Fox says it's a little bit less. The game takes place in 1603, which is pretty interesting time in Japanese history. The Warring States period just ended, peace has broken out across the land, and all of these warriors suddenly don't have jobs anymore. And a number of them went to Ezo, modern day Hokkaido, which is in the far north, which is the edge of Japan. And this place is a lawless wilderness, right? Very, very dangerous, packed with people with weapons, and some of them have chips on their shoulders. You take that kind of power kick and you put it alongside this unbelievably beautiful landscape of Hokkaido. So yeah, that kind of sets the scene there. So I'm guessing the Yotei 6 were having jobs, maybe mercenaries or something. They've come over, settled down in Ezo, and they've decided to, for some reason, start killing people, pin a young Atsu up against a tree, try and kill her, and then that's where our story starts, I suppose. A great revenge story. I never get bored of them. Next question is, will there be ties to Tsushima beyond the mechanics and Japanese setting? Are there going to be any narrative ties to Jin Sakai's story? They reply, the game is very much in its own story. It is a spiritual sequel. You don't need to have played Ghost of Tsushima to jump right into Ghost of Yotei. It is a game where the player is considered something of a ghost. Atsu is considered an Onryo, an avenging spirit, by the people of Ezo because she keeps living through all of these attempts to get revenge, and she becomes a walking legend in the land that she explores. Her reputation precedes her. In this way, it's similar, but it's very much its own story. I actually like that, because not every game needs to be a follow-on from another game. Yeah, it's still kind of set in the same universe. There's still going to be similarities to the Ghost of Tsushima, but I think doing it this way, it doesn't alienate players that haven't maybe played Tsushima, because maybe not everyone had a PlayStation at the time, and now people are coming over from Xbox because, well, there's no point in having an Xbox at the minute. They're buying PlayStations, and they're thinking, all right, well, I'm going to get Yotei, do I need to buy Tsushima? Well, no, you don't. You can watch a few YouTube videos of it. I'm sure there's lots of Let's Plays, but my opinion, if you haven't played it, you should totally go and play that. You will not regret any second you play of that game. So I think that's a nice little change. I personally don't have anything wrong with it. And then if we scroll down, they was asked about what research they did, and I think this is pretty cool, because Jason Connell basically says they went over to Hokkaido, which is modern day Ezo, and they stayed in and around Mount Yotei, and they were lucky that they found many great advisors to help them with this game, which I think is cool. And what they go on to say is they actually got to meet some members of the Ainu community, and one of them is actually their advisors. I think that's really cool, because we got to remember, if this game is set in a different culture, we need to go and experience that, and it's good. I'm sure this is pretty standard in the industry of development, that directors will go over to other countries, but I just think it's good to know that they've actually done this. Jason goes on to say there were scripts that they were involved in, and even patterns. If you ever look at the Ainu, they have these beautiful, elegant, awesome patterns, and they helped us understand the reasoning behind the art choices of those patterns. It is something we just have no idea about, and so they totally help us. This is really cool, going over there, spending some time with them, because obviously we play games for fun, but when you're doing it over historical events, it's good to have some fact and not all fiction in there. So there's a nice balance, and hopefully they've got this right by going over to visit them. I think this is cool to learn about that, and especially having one of the actual community members being an advisor for the story part of the game. I think that's really cool. Hopefully it blends in nice with the fictional part of it, and it just all makes the game just lots of fun, which I'm sure it will. Scrolling down, they're saying, was there anything in that research that surprised you? Maybe something players might be surprised to learn is accurate. Now I'm going to scroll down to the bottom part here, and that is this part about the wolf. And the other one is the wolf, which is actually a real wolf. It's an Ezo Wolf that is now extinct in real life. So it's awesome to be able to show this ferociously awesome animal. And Nate butts in and says they're big. It looked big in the trailer. And Jason O'Connor hits back with, yeah, but they're not around. So to celebrate that and to sort of have that in our game, and people might not know that, it's just fun that they get to experience that even though they're not real anymore because they don't exist anymore. Yep, I can't wait to use the wolf. Absolutely, it looked amazing in the game. It's not going to be a pet. It's going to be more of a kind of companion that comes in and out of the game whenever we need to use them. Probably part of an ability or skill tree. Scrolling on, we've got the quest structure is open in Ghost of Yotei. Is it structured as wholly open where there are 6 people you must kill and you can go after them in any order or direction you want? So the answer to that is no. And they say, to be clear, it is not that. It's not that you can pick any order of the 6. And I'll tell you why. Nate and I and the studio, and you've played a lot of our games, we really believe in the structure of story. It's really important to us that we develop great characters with good arcs, with beginning, middles, and ends. You've got to have that, right? This is true. There is an arc with a structure in place, but at the same time, one of the aspects from Ghost of Tsushima that we wanted not to only carry forward, but just to do an even better job of, was that sense of curiosity and freedom of exploration that the game delivers upon. Just going to stop there and say, I'm a massive Assassin's Creed fan, and this isn't no dig at Assassin's Creed, I'm not comparing the two, but in Shadows, well, Ubisoft in general, they don't have like linear stories. They tend to just let you do whatever you want, and I think you can get a bit lost with where the story's going in that aspect. It's nice to have the freedom, but I think there is a fine balance, and it seems that these guys over at Sucker Punch are really trying to nail that down, because the Ghost of Tsushima story is pretty linear. It's really cool, and it's nice to know that they're evolving that in Yotei by making you be like exploring more, but you've still got a story and a structure, and you can't just jump from one of the Yotei 6. You can't just do it in any order. It's nice to be able to move through the 6 of them, and then obviously we've got side missions to go onto that. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's my one slight with the Assassin's Creed game, like Shadows anyway, is that the story can just get so diluted because there's so many things. So this is nice to hear. They go on, and so you have this delicate impasse of, if the story is just perfectly linear and you are just forced on the gold path all the time, you might lose the opportunity for people who just want to explore the landscape. But if you go too far on the other side, you might lose the structure of the story, and that's where I think Shadows just fell a little bit. So this is really, really good to hear. So the balance, without giving away all the details, is there is a structure there. A very important structure, but the way it's represented in the first few hours of the game, especially that first section, it is really about us delivering to you which aspects of the Yotei 6 you want to go after first. There are some options that might lead you in some interesting areas. And then finishing that up, which is another really good part of this interview, they say, I kind of mentioned it a little bit in a state of play. If you're into sort of ninjas and snow stuff, then this story over there might be more interesting for you. And they did. That was part of the calling card section. I covered that in my last video from the state of play, where you're roaming through the snow, and then all of a sudden some ninja pops his head up and they start attacking you. If you're into these castles and these fire weapons, then this area might be for you. But you can bop back and forth between the two of those major areas, which is really cool. Appreciating players' time and giving them the option to do what they want to do is quite important, and not that many games do that these days, so that's really cool to hear. So quite unique here. We can go off and venture and do what we want, but we're not going to get lost because the story has a structure. Perfect. And then they get asked about that switching to the past and learning about Atsu and her family when she was a child, and they're saying, how can we do that? For those of you that haven't watched a state of play, whilst you're playing Yotei in real time, from a click of a button, you can, while you're in a place, you can see it back when Atsu was a child. So this is what they're meaning there, and Nate Fox gives us a bit more detail, saying there are a few places in the world that have a lot of memories for Atsu. When you go to these locations, you can hit a button and instantly be transported to the past. You control young Atsu in these locations. You can go back and forth as much as you want in the moments to see maybe how this location has changed, what it looks like right now as an adult, and what it looked like back in your youth. And we want to give players the freedom to kind of go back and forth to experience some gameplay as a kid, so they can recall what it is. So they can feel what it is that Atsu feels, what she lost when her parents were taken from her. That is a really cool touch. That was one of my highlights from the state of play. And then we go into the technicalities of the game. The interviewer says, They want to know how it works technically. Tsushima had incredibly impressive load times. Yes, it did, even on the base PlayStation 4. Is this one of the ways that you're taking advantage of the PlayStation 5, swapping to the past? You're absolutely right. It is because of the PS5 that we can do this flipping back and forth. It's very powerful business to have both of them at one time, and it's allowing us to give you that experience of spending time with your brother and your parents and getting to know them. Because, of course, your whole family got wiped out. I'm glad that we have that opportunity to give players exposure to that in this layered fashion. And then scrolling down, Jason then says, but honestly, there's a whole host of things that we also got to improve upon. There's much further sight lines, making the mountains feel so far away. The team did just such a great job making them feel epic and large and big. The terrain tessellation, we've done some work on there. Higher fidelity rendering for far terrain. In general, it just looks much higher quality than some of our faraway distance stuff in the past. There is a bunch of localized volumetric fog. We love the fog, and we have more of just standard fog in the last game, and it was beautiful and really well done. But now there's actually localized volumetric work. We did some work on low-lying clouds and improved skin and hair rendering. And they do say at some point they're going to do a here's all the cool base and pro sort of features, and we'll outline it all. So that is like super interesting to know. We obviously know we're going to get a pro enhanced version of this. It just makes absolute sense. And I can't wait. I said last time when I released the state of play, because there was a lot of chatter over Yotei saying it doesn't even look any different to Tsushima. You got to understand, Tsushima was such a fucking gorgeous game. It was well done. The art style was amazing. It looked so good and ahead of its time. There's only so many ways you can make a game look better. But I honestly feel when you've got it in your hands and you're playing it at home on your TV or your monitor, you're really going to see how much better it looks. And being a pro owner myself, I can't wait to find out what features I'm going to get with the pro enhanced version. They mentioned fast travel. Is that still super quick? Because in Tsushima, it was rapid. They say, yep, super fast. It's a convenience thing. That's not going anywhere because people like it so much. Yep, I love fast travel. I'm not being funny. The world can be as engrossing and as beautiful as anything you've ever seen, but sometimes going back and forth can get a bit tedious, so having a fast travel is just pretty standard. And then to follow on from that, they talk about the wind system, which was in Tsushima. So obviously the Tsushima wind system was there to guide you, which is a really cool, unique way of doing so without having waypoints on a map. So they get asked a little bit about the wind navigation system, how it's going to work. So Jason Connell says, the wind system, there has been some iteration on it. Ezo is such a vast place that we had developed some features for the wind to sort of guide around big objects. The last game, it was just linear. It was just like, point to the place and you go there. Doesn't matter if there's a giant cliff there or not. True, that was actually quite annoying. And now we have actually a little bit of a system to help guide around some of the major obstacles to make it a little bit more of an improved experience for such a vast world. Traversal is super helped with the experience versus it being linear, but on top of that, we just did a whole bunch of other exploration forward features because wind is birthed out of the feeling that we want to create a diegetic experience where we want you to be in the game world so you can keep looking at the game world as much as you can. We've all augmented that with a couple of other features like the shamisen Atsu carries on her back. You learn certain songs and those certain songs will guide you to certain things. There's lots of things that we've created like that, like the wind, that are just nice additions to that diegetic exploration experience. Well, that's kind of cool because obviously Tsushima, you would just end up going into a big ass mountain or a rock and you're like, well, where do I go from here? Because the wind doesn't change direction. So you'd actually have to load up the map and then kind of navigate yourself around. But that bit about her shamisen, you learn certain songs and those certain songs will guide you to certain things. I'm guessing maybe cosmetics. We can get like different colors for our skins, a bit like in Tsushima. That would be really cool. That just adds to the immersion of the game as well. Honestly, I'm so hyped for this, guys. This is just shaping up to be such a good game. Let me know what you think, what they mean by that down in the comments. And then scrolling down, they get asked if you can befriend more than wolves. So, Nate Fox says, the wolf shadows you throughout your adventure. It's a wild animal. It's definitely not a dog that comes when called. It is an ally that is a representation of the wilderness. Now, Atsu is kind of attuned to the natural world, and so there are a great variety of different animals in Ezo that she can kind of get close to and interact with. Like a big herd of wild horses you can ride inside of and kind of speed up as you're amongst them all. It's a great thing for the player to discover as they're out exploring Ezo itself, but as far as allies go, the wolf is your prime animal ally. That little bit there about when you're in a herd of horses and you actually speed up along with them, that's just a nice bit of touch for realism there. And I think that makes, again, I keep saying it, the immersion feel more real. Honestly, these little touches are just making me smile. And then they get asked, how do the camps work specifically? Can you request certain vendors come right to you? Effectively, I'll say this. It is another way where we're trying to create a feature that tonally fits within the landscape. Big, wild north under the wilderness. Great camping. That's great. Taking something that tonally fits into the game and seeing if we can wrap up the mechanics around it and respecting the player's time and where they are. Fast traveling is fine and fun and it's super quick, as we pointed out. But if I'm exploring in an area and I go, I know I have enough to get the bow upgrade, because we tell you all that information like we did in the last game too, but I have to like leave this place, go over here to this town, and now it's in the snow, and then I'm going to come back over here. It's really sort of discordant. It really kind of breaks your immersion of exploring this cool place that I'm in right here, right now. Or you can just go to that Wolfpack menu and call the camp here, and the character will come and appear at your camp, and they will show up and be like, hey, here's your bow upgrade. That is a way for people to stay in that moment and get that upgrade. Maybe cook some food and get a nice boon. Honestly, that is such an amazing addition. That is such a good quality of life change. Imagine that, having someone come to you with your upgrade ready to go so you can just crack on. Don't get me wrong, I love Tsushima, but yeah, you would kind of add fast travel to a camp to then get your upgrade, and then you'd actually go back and carry on with what you were doing. But this, they come to you. How good of a quality of life upgrade is that, guys? And then at the end, I have to, because I love Assassin's Creed Shadows. What did you think of Assassin's Creed Shadows? Comparisons are going to be inevitable. Jason says, as creators, you get to look at this stuff in two ways. You either see anything that comes near you and you kind of freeze up, or you just get excited at the fact that the medium that you're working on is being expanded upon, and people are liking that flavour enough to where they're going to invest time to make a new game. Nate and I solely sit on that latter one. We were very, very excited about anything, film, overlap, game stuff. These things are just inevitable as creators, and you learn to embrace it, and Ubisoft makes awesome games. I've been making games for a really long time, and I think it's just fun to see so many other cool games in this space. It's exciting for us, and honestly it is. For whatever people say about Shadows, it's got one of the best feeling combat game loops I've ever played. You are an assassin, and it feels so cool to be an assassin in that game. It just plays so smoothly. Yeah, it's got its downfalls, like the story not being linear, but if you kind of want that side of it, Ghost of Yotei seems to be checking out. I really like this interview. It reveals some really cool details. Let me know what you thought of it, guys. Are you hyped as much as I am for the game to come out? I can't wait now until October. But if you have enjoyed the video and the breakdown, please hit that like button, as it helps the video out massively, guys. And if you are into Ghost of Yotei, hit that subscribe button for more content coming in the future. But as always, take care, and I'll see you on the next video.